This is a continuation of my video series on what I believe are the 10 most neglected items on these 25-plus-year-old Mercedes-Benzes. Now in part 1, I gave you a summary of all 10, a quick overview. But in parts 2 and 3, I'm going to go into more detail on each one of these 10 items. In this part, we'll do the first 5, and then in part 3, we'll do the last 5, because the videos are getting a little long because I really do want to cover these in detail. So number 1 is, now for a few moments of truth here, let's open up Fritz's fuse box cover and take a look. All right, sure enough, these are all aluminum fuses, and they all have that white chalky appearance on them. I'm going to take my special tool here, and we're going to pull one of these out. See if I can show you this up close. You can see the corrosion on the tips of each fuse. And that corrosion will build up over time and lose contact. Let's go ahead and pull out this one down here. Yeah, this one's even worse. See that? You can see the corrosion right along that tip there. Sure, you could come in and wire brush these, but then you're just going to be fighting these in the future, because as the moisture gets in these fuse boxes, it starts to corrode this aluminum because of the dissimilar metal between this metal here and the aluminum itself, and you can even see some of the corrosion flakes right there. By the way, here's one of those brass alloy fuses. Notice the lack of that white powder or any evidence of corrosion, even though this fuse has been sitting in the same fuse box with this aluminum fuse here. Number 2, I just climbed into Fritz here, and let's take a look at this shift bushing. We'll get the shift lever here, and uh-oh, look at that. We got a 1/2 inch movement. See that? You can hear it rattling. So I suspect there's one bushing there that may just be missing altogether, because I can hear the metal on metal rattling in there. But take a look at these other 2 cars. These are both 300 SDs. One was a very nice maintained car. Look at the slop in that one, and then in the other one there's not quite as much slop, but you can feel that the bushing's starting to go in that one as well. So number 2 stays on my list. For those of you not quite sure what I'm talking about, here is the bushing that either breaks out or wears out, falls out. This sits in a metal bracket, and the rod goes through there, and you have one on the shifter and one in the lever of the transmission, so you need 2 bushings. But the problem is not the cost of the bushings. These are very cheap. The problem is the frustration of getting them installed up inside that transmission tunnel and enter my special tool for installing these bushings. This will allow you to go up inside there and squeeze these into place. It makes the job go so much easier. And then this special tool here is to get the clips on and off. You don't know how frustrating that can be until you're trying to work up under the car along the side of the transmission with very limited access. So the kit you see here will allow you to replace these 2 bushings quite quickly with a lot less frustration. And this is something you really can do yourself. This is rapidly becoming one of our best-selling kits of all time. So that just goes to show you how many shift bushings out there really need replacing. Number 3, let's take a look at the drain. You can see all the needles and leaves. This is real common. But I'm going to go over to the corner, because that's what you're really looking for. And sure enough, as I roll into the corner here, look at that. This is so common. You've got all kinds of leaves. I've seen moss and plants growing down in here in the past. So this is going to retain the water and cause problems, so I need to clean these drains out. Sometimes you'll have issues where the drains up by the hood hinges might be plugged. A lot of times if you see wetness, like in this picture on the W123, if you see wetness down by the hinge points, that means water's been holding in there. So you definitely want to clean the drains. The 123s are by far the worst if you neglect those. When you're checking and cleaning your water drains, you also want to check the grommets along the firewall. I've seen these grommets loosen up or get deteriorated and leak, and sure enough, I'm looking at Fritz's grommets here. Look at this. Somebody put some extra wiring in this car. I think it was for aftermarket air conditioning. And look at this grommet. It's been pulled away from the firewall. Imagine water going down there, and then look at the big grommet here. Totally loosened up from the firewall seal here. And that's another place that water can enter into the cabin area and get your carpets wet and your windows fogged up. So go along the front of the firewall of your car and check for sealing on every single grommet that enters into the inside of the car. Number 4, battery tray corrosion. Let's pull the battery out of Fritz here and see what we find. Oh, look at that. Is that common or what? Look at the amount of rust. And if that's neglected very much longer, there'll be no battery tray left. What I'm really concerned about is if there's rust underneath the battery tray. So I'm going to have to pull this out. Once again, I have a lot of information and some great products on fixing these type of problems with rust in and around the battery tray areas. So check out the videos in the show more below. You also want to inspect underneath the battery tray for rust. Just don't look at the tray, all right? You're going to need to take the tray out and give it a good inspection below where this battery sits. Now, I had a really tough time getting this bolt and this nut off. They were very, very rusty, and I've got a technique that I developed to get those out without breaking the bolt or the stud off. So be sure and check that out. I'll put the link to that other video in the show more below here. So I'm going to pull the tray out now and let's take a look. Well, that's not a surprise. Look at the back side of the tray. You see, this is going to need to be fixed too. What I recommend is when you fix up one of these battery trays, you don't want to use regular paint. It's not going to last. The only thing I found that really lasts is that hard miracle coating that we sell, and you have to do a lot of cleaning and prep work on this, but once you coat it with miracle paint, it's not likely to rust again if you do it properly. So what I'm looking for underneath the tray is rust. You can see I've got all kinds of leaves and stuff. But I'm looking for rust in the body. There's a little bit of rust here, but fortunately, at least initially, I'm not seeing any rust other than this bracket right here for the sway bar. So what you want to do, and this is probably more prominent in the W123s, is if you find rust forming here or even rust holes, they can be repaired. Trying to weld in this area is very difficult. Of course, if you've got extensive rust that's affecting the sway bar bracket, you got a huge problem. But for minor rust holes, you can use the miracle paint with fiberglass cloth. I have lots of information on my website, and just follow those links. It'll tell you more about that process and what you'll need to fix that type of rust. But for right now, I'm going to just have to clean this up. I'll probably hit this with some miracle paint, get this all detailed out, redo the battery box, and reinstall it, because I did not break off the stud and I did not break off the bolt here, so I'm in good shape. Number 5, let's talk about hood pads. As you saw earlier in this video, I've got lots of hood pads to replace, and most of these old Mercedes that I acquire or that come into my shop, this is what you see. You know, a hood pad where the chunks are just falling off. You know, at least if you're not going to change the hood pad, at least get a plastic scraper and scrape it all off. You know, that's what I did on Casper until I got around to having the time to replace the hood pad. But I have 4 hood pads to replace. This one here is for a W116, but you get an idea of how much better that looks when you replace the hood pad. It's not difficult, but it is a little tricky, because you're going to have to use a special glue that we include in my kits. And that glue is a contact cement, so as soon as you touch the hood pad to the hood, it's going to stick and you're not going to be able to get it off unless you tear the foam. So I've come up with this little technique to help you get this on straight and even as you apply it to the hood panel here. And our hood pad kits come with the glue and video instructions on how to do it yourself and do it right. So there you have the first 5. I will put some links in the description below this video. Be sure and click on the show more so you'll see all of them. But these links will take you to more videos, products, and supplies, tools, whatever that I covered in these 5 videos. And be sure to watch part 3 when I cover the final 5 in this series.